Now, the risk of famine throughout Gaza is very high, especially in the north. We've been very clear. Israel must do everything possible to facilitate efforts to avert famine in Gaza, and that more aid needs to be done, needs to get out to reach the most vulnerable in Gaza, especially in the north. The population in the north is in particular threat of malnutrition, wasting, famine. And there all too little aid had come in until the last several weeks. Aid has been moving now to the north. Immediately after Hamas launched its attack on October 7th, President Biden stood strongly with the nation of Israel. As the president has said many times, Israel has a right and a duty to defend itself against Hamas. President Biden, starting on his visit to Israel October 18, was clear. He was clear privately and publicly with the Prime Minister, with the War Cabinet, and then in his comments that Israel must do more to protect civilians, to facilitate the flow of humanitarian assistance into Gaza, and to enable its safe and unhindered distribution inside of Gaza. This is both the morally right thing to do, and it is strategically absolutely necessary. Now, the risk of famine throughout Gaza is very high, especially in the north. We've been very clear. Israel must do everything possible to facilitate efforts to avert famine in Gaza. Now, the president has made this point clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu during his April 4th call. And he also made clear that U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by our assessment of Israel's actions, immediate actions, to protect innocent civilians and ensure the safety of humanitarian workers, as well as to increase the amount of assistance reaching those in need in Gaza. Before the president's engagement, there was no food, no water, no medicine getting into Gaza. We are the largest provider of aid to the Gaza response. This is and will continue to be a top priority for the President, for the Secretary, for the United States. Over the 6 months past, as a result of our efforts, we have secured the opening of multiple land border crossings, and the volume of assistance entering into and, most importantly, distributed within Gaza has increased significantly. And that more aid needs to be done, needs to get out to reach the most vulnerable in Gaza, especially in the north. Israel must take all steps to minimize civilian casualties, to ensure that assistance is effectively and efficiently moved, not just in the south and the center, but in the north. The population in the north is in particular threat of malnutrition, wasting, famine. And there all too little aid had come in until the last several weeks. Aid has been moving now to the north through land corridors, from outside Gaza in, and from within Gaza north. Now, to truly address the urgent needs of the civilian population in Gaza, and to enable humanitarian partners to safely distribute life-saving aid throughout Gaza at the scale needed, it's essential to see a ceasefire as part of a hostage deal in Gaza. The path ahead there is straightforward. There could be a 6-week ceasefire today if Hamas would agree to the terms of a deal on the table. It would help bring immediate relief to the people of Gaza. It would also create the conditions needed to enable the urgent humanitarian work that must be done. Hamas, and Hamas alone, is responsible for the failure to return hostages and implement a ceasefire. So these challenges still exist. There is still considerable work to be done, but progress has been made. And a final note on something that all of you have heard us speak to and you have asked about: deconfliction and coordination. Too many humanitarian workers have been killed. Too many humanitarian movements have not been able to move effectively and efficiently to their destinations. And so we have worked intensively, and the President discussed this with the Prime Minister, on setting up a mechanism that works in real time between humanitarian actors on the ground, between IDF personnel at checkpoints, at contact points on the ground, and appropriate levels within the IDF structure to enable that efficient, effective, and safe movement of humanitarians, their staff, and the convoys containing assistance. Progress is being made, but more progress still needs to be done to assure that this is in train. To make it work, humanitarian actors need effective communications. They need to be able to talk to the IDF on the ground, talk to command levels of the IDF, and vice versa. We're pleased that progress has been made on availability of appropriate communication systems for humanitarian workers. Lost in the things that need to be done, because those needs are significant, is the fact that we have seen meaningful progress. That progress needs to be sustained, needs to be continued, but the situation has improved, particularly in these last 2 to 3 weeks, from where we would be were I briefing at beginning of April or in the latter part of March. But more has to be done to meet those needs, has to be sustained.